The crystal chandeliers threw dancing patterns across the marble floor as I balanced another tray of champagne flutes. My feet ached in the sensible black flats required by the catering company, but I'd learned long ago that complaining about physical discomfort was pointless when you needed the paycheck. The Ashford wedding was the kind of event where a single centerpiece cost more than my monthly rent, and I was just another invisible servant meant to glide through the crowd like a ghost. "More champagne over here." A voice cut through the string quartet's rendition of something classical and expensive. I turned toward the summons, recognizing the groom's older brother, already flushed with alcohol, despite it being barely past cocktail hour. The Ashford family had money that stretched back generations, the kind of wealth that made people believe rules didn't apply to them. I'd served at enough of these events to recognize the type. "Of course, sir," I replied, keeping my voice professionally neutral as I approached with the tray. He grabbed a flute without looking at me, his attention fixed on the blonde woman beside him who laughed too loudly at something he'd said. The champagne sloshed dangerously close to the rim as he gestured wildly, and I stepped back just in time to avoid being splashed. The ballroom was a study in ostentatious wealth. Ice sculptures shaped like swans flanked the entrance. White roses imported from Ecuador cascaded down every column. The bride's dress probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years of working events like this. I moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, offering champagne and collecting empty glasses, making myself as inconspicuous as possible. That was the trick to surviving these jobs. Be efficient, but invisible. Smile, but don't engage. Remember that you're here to serve, not to exist as a person in their world. "You there!" another voice called out. I suppressed a sigh and turned to find the groom himself, Tyler Ashford, weaving slightly on his feet. His bow tie hung loosened around his neck, and his eyes had the glazed look of someone who'd started celebrating too early. The bride was nowhere in sight, probably being photographed for the millionth time. "Yes, sir?" I kept the tray balanced carefully as I approached. "Get me another bottle of that imported stuff. Not the garbage you're serving." He gestured dismissively at my tray of perfectly good champagne. "I'll check with the bar about availability," I said, already calculating how to politely deflect. The catering manager had been clear about limiting the groom's alcohol intake after he'd gotten belligerent at the rehearsal dinner. "I didn't ask you to check." His voice rose slightly. "I told you to get it." Several nearby guests turned to look, their conversations faltering. I felt heat creeping up my neck, the familiar sensation of being put on display. This was the moment where I was supposed to apologize and scurry away, reinforcing my place in the hierarchy. "Sir, perhaps after dinner." His hand shot out, gripping my wrist hard enough to make me gasp. The tray tilted dangerously, champagne threatening to spill. "Listen to me, you insolent little—" The words that followed were crude and demeaning, designed to remind me exactly what he thought of someone like me. His fingers dug into my wrist as he continued his tirade, alcohol making him bold and cruel. The nearby guests looked away, embarrassed but unwilling to intervene. After all, why make a scene over how someone treated the help? Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the long shift on aching feet. Maybe it was the accumulation of 1,000 small humiliations from 1,000 similar events. Maybe it was just that I was tired of being invisible until someone needed a target for their cruelty. Whatever it was, it made me do something spectacularly stupid. I tilted the tray deliberately, letting every glass of champagne cascade directly onto Tyler Ashford's head. The liquid soaked through his perfectly styled hair, dripped down his designer tuxedo, and puddled at his expensive shoes. The ballroom went absolutely silent. Even the string quartet stuttered to a halt. "There," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet. I kept my tone pleasant, almost cheerful. "Now you're refreshed, sir. You seemed a bit overheated." Tyler's face went from red to purple. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. His fingers finally released my wrist as he stood there, dripping and furious. You, he sputtered, champagne dripping from his eyebrows. "You're fired. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. A sound interrupted his escalating threats. Low, rich, and completely unexpected in the tense atmosphere. Laughter. Not polite amusement. Deep, genuine laughter that seemed to roll through the ballroom like thunder. Every head turned toward the sound. I followed their gaze to find a man I hadn't noticed before, standing near the back of the room. He was tall, perhaps mid-30s, with dark hair styled with casual precision. His suit probably cost more than my car, but he wore it with an ease that suggested he was equally comfortable in anything. When he smiled, it didn't reach his steel-gray eyes. Those eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. He walked forward through the crowd, which parted for him like the Red Sea. There was something about the way he moved, a predatory grace that suggested danger wrapped in expensive tailoring. Every person he passed seemed to lean slightly away, their expressions a mixture of respect and fear. "That," he said, his voice carrying easily despite not being raised, "was magnificent." Tyler whirled to face him, water still dripping from his hair. "Soren, thank God. This insane woman just—" I saw what she did. The man, Soren, continued walking until he stood between Tyler and me. Up close, I could see the sharp intelligence in those gray eyes, the slight scar along his jawline that suggested his life hadn't always been as polished as his current appearance. "I also saw what you did first." Something in his tone made Tyler take a step back. "It was just a misunderstanding. You know how the help can be." "The help?" Soren's eyebrow rose. "Is that how you refer to people who work honest jobs? Interesting." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. I noticed people edging away from Tyler, distancing themselves from whatever was about to happen. "I didn't mean—" Tyler started. "You meant exactly what you said." Soren pulled out his phone, still maintaining eye contact with the groom. "Which makes this next part easier." He dialed a number, waited one ring, and spoke clearly. "Marcus, the Ashford construction deal. Cancel it. All of it." He paused. "Yes, I'm certain. The entire portfolio. Immediately." Tyler's face went white. "Wait, what? You can't—" "I just did." Soren ended the call and tucked the phone away. "Your family's construction contracts, the ones that were going to triple your father's company's value, those were dependent on my investment firm's backing, which I've just withdrawn. That will ruin us." Tyler's voice cracked. "Soren, please. Should have thought of that before you put your hands on someone who couldn't fight back." Soren's voice remained pleasant, conversational even, but something in his eyes promised consequences. "Now, if you'll excuse me." He turned to face me fully for the first time, and I felt the weight of his complete attention. It was like being studied by a wolf that hadn't yet decided if you were prey or something more interesting. "You have a name?" he asked. "Celine." My voice came out steadier than I expected. "And I'm probably about to be unemployed, thanks to that little display." His lips quirked. "Tell me, Celine, do you enjoy insulting people? Because I have a position that would allow you to do that with far more frequency." I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "A job. Working for me." He pulled a business card from his pocket and held it out. "I need someone to organize certain events. Someone who isn't afraid to speak their mind. Someone who can handle difficult personalities." I took the card automatically, reading the embossed lettering. Soren Blackwood. The name sounded familiar, though I couldn't place why. Behind us, Tyler sputtered something about this being completely inappropriate, about how I should be arrested for assault. Soren didn't even glance back at him. "Think about it," he said to me. The pay is substantially better than champagne service, I assure you. And I promise you'll never have to tolerate being grabbed again. Before I could respond, my manager appeared, red-faced and horrified. Miss Rivera, you need to leave immediately. The damage you've caused has been thoroughly entertaining. Soren's voice cut through her panic. And irrelevant. Send the bill for any damages to my office. Miss Rivera's employment here is terminated, but I'm hiring her. Effective immediately. The manager's mouth opened and closed. Mr. Blackwood, I don't think... I'm not asking. Those gray eyes turned cold. Consider this handled. He looked back at me, and something in his expression shifted, becoming almost amused. So, Celine, do you accept? I should have said no. Should have walked away from whatever this was, whatever he was offering. Every instinct screamed that this man was dangerous, that accepting anything from him would complicate my life in ways I couldn't predict. But I looked at the card in my hand, at Tyler still dripping champagne and radiating impotent fury, at my former manager wringing her hands helplessly, and I thought about how tired I was of being invisible, of swallowing my pride for people who saw me as less than human. I have questions, I said finally. A lot of them. Soren's smile widened, showing teeth. I'd expect nothing less. Shall we discuss them somewhere less public? My car is outside. The smart thing would be to refuse, to go home, regroup, find another catering job. The smart thing would be to recognize that men like Soren Blackwood, whoever he really was, didn't make offers like this without expecting something in return. But apparently I'd already proven I wasn't good at doing the smart thing. Fine, I said. But if this is some kind of elaborate prank, I'm dumping more than champagne on your head. His laugh was low and genuine. I wouldn't expect anything less. Come. As he turned and walked toward the exit, I followed, acutely aware of every eye in the ballroom watching us. Behind me, I heard Tyler's renewed protests, his father's angry voice joining in, the general chaos my actions had created. I should have felt guilty, ashamed, worried about my future. Instead, I felt oddly exhilarated, like I'd just stepped off a cliff without knowing if there was water below. Soren held the door for me, a surprisingly courteous gesture from someone who'd just destroyed a family's fortune with a phone call. As I passed him, he murmured, "You know, I think this is going to be very interesting." I met those gray eyes directly. Interesting for who? Both of us. He smiled. I have a feeling you're going to keep me on my toes, Selena Rivera. As we stepped out into the cool evening air, I had the distinct sensation that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't begin to predict. And despite every logical reason to be terrified, part of me was curious to see what happened next. After all, I'd already dumped champagne on a groom. How much worse could it get? The car waiting at the curb wasn't just expensive. It was the kind of vehicle that made people stop and stare. Sleek black exterior, windows tinted so dark they seemed to absorb light. A driver in a crisp suit stood beside the rear door, his posture military straight. Miss Rivera, Soren gestured toward the open door. I hesitated on the sidewalk, suddenly aware of how insane this was. Getting into a car with a stranger who'd just casually destroyed someone's financial future. A stranger whose name I recognized now. Soren Blackwood, the investment mogul whose business dealings were always shrouded in rumors and speculation. Having second thoughts? He tilted his head, studying me. Smart. You should be cautious. Then why aren't you worried I'll run? I challenged. Because you're curious. He leaned against the car, completely relaxed. And because you need a job, but mostly because you want to know what I actually want from you. Damn him for being right. I slid into the car, the leather seats cool against my legs. Soren followed, and the door closed behind us with a quiet, expensive click. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Cedar, maybe, from whatever cologne he wore. "Where are we going?" I asked as the car pulled smoothly into traffic. "Dinner." He settled back against the seat. "I assume you haven't eaten. Catering staff rarely get to enjoy the food at these events." My stomach chose that moment to growl, betraying me. I'd grabbed a granola bar before my shift, nothing since. "So you destroyed a family's business and now you're buying me dinner?" I kept my tone light, but watched him carefully. "Quite the first date." His laugh was low. "Is that what this is?" "I don't know what this is. That's what concerns me." "Fair enough." He pressed a button, and a partition rose between us and the driver, cocooning us in privacy. "Let me be clear, Celine. I don't do anything without a reason. That display back there? Tyler Ashford has been on my radar for months. His family's construction company has been cutting corners, using substandard materials. 3 buildings with major structural issues, all swept under the rug with bribes. I was looking for an excuse to pull my investment. And I gave you one. You gave me a perfect one." He smiled. "But that's not why I'm interested in hiring you." "Then why?" He was quiet for a moment, those gray eyes assessing me in a way that made me feel simultaneously exposed and intrigued. "Because in a room full of people who know exactly who I am and what I can do, you treated me like any other person. You weren't impressed by my intervention. You were skeptical. That's rare. Most people aren't stupid enough to be skeptical of someone with your reputation, and yet here you are." He leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, what do you know about my reputation?" "That you're very rich, very powerful, and very good at making people disappear from business deals." I met his gaze steadily. "Also that nobody really knows where you came from, or how you built your empire so quickly, which means you're either brilliant, ruthless, or both." Perceptive. His expression gave nothing away. "Does that frighten you?" "Should it?" "Probably." He pulled out a tablet, tapped it to life, and turned it toward me. "Here's what I'm offering. 10 months. You'll work as my personal event coordinator. I host several charity galas, business dinners, and social functions throughout the year. All carefully orchestrated affairs that require someone who can handle difficult personalities and unexpected situations." I looked at the contract displayed on the screen, my eyes widening at the salary figure. "This is more than fair." He scrolled down. "Full benefits, housing allowance if needed, and a guarantee that you'll never be in a position where someone can treat you the way Tyler did tonight. You'll work directly with me, report to no one else, and have complete authority over event planning and execution." "Why me?" I looked up from the tablet. "You could hire a professional with actual experience." "I have professionals. They're competent, but predictable." He leaned back. "You dumped champagne on a groom at his own wedding and then made a joke about it. That takes either remarkable courage or remarkable stupidity." "Could be both." "I don't think so." His eyes held mine. "I think you're sharper than you let people see. I think you've learned to make yourself small and unobtrusive to survive in a world that doesn't value what you have to offer. And I think you're tired of it." The accuracy of his assessment sent a chill through me. How could he possibly know that from one interaction? "This feels like more than event planning," I said carefully. "It is." He didn't try to hide it. "I need someone who can read people, anticipate problems, and handle situations with discretion. Someone who isn't easily intimidated. The events I host aren't just social gatherings. They're opportunities to observe, to negotiate, to understand the people I do business with." "So, I'd be what exactly? Your spy?" "My eyes and ears in situations where I need to focus on other things." He took the tablet back. "Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. Just observation and honest reporting." The car slowed, pulling up to a restaurant I recognized from magazines. The kind of place where reservations were impossible unless you knew the right people. Of course, Soren knew the right people. "Think about it over dinner," he said as the driver opened the door. "No pressure. If you decline, I'll have my driver take you home with a generous severance for your trouble tonight." I should have taken the severance. Should have walked away from this bizarre offer from this dangerous man. Instead, I got out of the car. The restaurant interior was all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, somehow managing to feel both industrial and intimate. We were led to a private table in the back, away from other diners. Soren ordered wine without looking at the menu, then turned his attention fully to me. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "Shouldn't you already know? If you're this thorough about business deals, I assume you've already researched me." His smile was approving. "I know the basics. 24 years old, associate degree in hospitality management, been working catering jobs for 3 years. Grew up in the Midwest, moved here after college, no family in the area. Clean record, good credit despite modest income. But those are just facts. I want to know who you are." "Why does it matter for event planning?" "Because I'm considering trusting you with access to sensitive information. I need to understand how you think." The wine arrived, and I took a sip, buying time. It was smooth and rich, probably costing more per bottle than I made in a week. "I'm practical," I said finally. "I don't have the luxury of being otherwise. I work hard, I keep my head down, and I try to build something stable. Tonight was an aberration." "Was it?" He leaned forward. "Or was it you finally reaching your breaking point? Does everyone you meet get psychoanalyzed?" "Only the interesting ones." He smiled. "You haven't asked me the most important question yet. Which is, what happens if you accept this job and then decide you want to leave?" I set down my wine glass. "Okay, what happens?" "You leave." He said it simply. "This is a 10-month contract, but either of us can terminate it with 2 weeks' notice. I don't believe in forcing people to work for me. It creates resentment, and resentful employees are unreliable. That seems too simple. It is simple. What's complicated is whether you trust that I'm telling the truth." He studied me. "You're wondering if this is some elaborate manipulation? If I'm the kind of man who makes promises he doesn't keep? Are you?" "I keep my promises." His voice hardened slightly. "Always. What I don't tolerate is betrayal. Work for me, honestly, and you'll be treated fairly. Try to deceive me, and you'll regret it." There was the threat I'd been waiting for, delivered calmly but unmistakably real. "At least you're honest about it," I said. "I find honesty saves time." He gestured as waiters appeared with our first course, something artfully arranged that probably had a French name. "So, Celine Rivera, what's your answer?" I looked at the food I hadn't ordered, the wine I couldn't normally afford, the man across from me who just upended my life with a job offer and a business card. Every logical instinct screamed to walk away. But I thought about going back to my tiny apartment, about finding another catering job where I'd be invisible and expendable, about always being careful, always being small, always swallowing my pride and my words. "I have conditions," I heard myself say. His eyebrow rose. "Do you?" "I want everything in writing. Clear job description, clear boundaries. And I want to be able to ask questions without worrying about consequences." "Done. I'm serious. If something makes me uncomfortable, I need to be able to say so." "I encourage it." He leaned back. "I don't need a yes woman, Celine. I need someone who'll tell me the truth, even when it's inconvenient." "Then yes." The word came out before I could second-guess myself. "I'll take the job." Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction? Maybe, or triumph. "Excellent. We'll start Monday. My assistant will contact you tomorrow with details. Just like that? Just like that. He raised his wine glass. To new beginnings and champagne-soaked grooms. Despite myself, I laughed and clinked my glass against his. To terrible life decisions. The best kind, he agreed. As we ate, Soren asked questions about my background, my education, my observations about the wedding before our dramatic exit. He listened with an intensity that was both flattering and slightly unnerving, filing away every detail like it mattered. "You're very good at this," I said between courses. "At what?" "Making people feel like they're the most interesting person in the room." He smiled. "Only because right now you are." Careful, that almost sounded like a compliment. It was. He set down his fork. "You're clever, observant, and brave enough to dump champagne on someone who could have made your life difficult. Those are valuable qualities. Or signs of poor impulse control. Sometimes those are the same thing." He signaled for the check. "I'll have my driver take you home. Get some rest. Monday will be intense." As we walked back to the car, I felt the surreal nature of the evening settling over me. 12 hours ago, I'd been just another struggling worker in a city full of them. Now I had a job offer from one of the most powerful men in the business world. Celine. Soren's voice stopped me before I got into the car. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being exactly what I needed. Exactly when I needed it." He smiled. "I have a feeling you're going to make my life very interesting." "Is that a good thing?" "We'll find out." As the car pulled away, I watched him standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, looking every inch the powerful businessman he was. But something in his expression suggested he was as curious about where this would lead as I was. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your contract will arrive tomorrow. Welcome to the team. SB." I leaned back against the seat, my mind racing. What had I just agreed to? Who was Soren Blackwood really, beneath the polished exterior? And why did part of me look forward to finding out, despite every warning sign? Monday couldn't come fast enough. Monday arrived with the subtlety of a freight train. I stood outside Blackwood Tower at 7:30 in the morning, staring up at the gleaming glass structure that pierced the skyline like a shard of obsidian. Somewhere in that building, Soren waited, along with whatever my new life would actually entail. The contract had arrived Saturday morning via courier, 30 pages of legal language that my neighbor, a paralegal, had helped me parse. Everything Soren promised was there in black and white. Salary, benefits, clear termination clauses. No hidden traps that we could find, which somehow made me more nervous rather than less. "You must be Celine." A woman appeared beside me, mid-30s with sharp eyes and sharper cheekbones. "I'm Vanessa Chen, Mr. Blackwood's executive assistant. He's expecting you." I followed her through the lobby, all marble and steel, to a private elevator that required a key card. We rode up in silence, my reflection multiplying in the mirrored walls. I'd chosen carefully. Black slacks, white blouse, minimal jewelry. Professional but not trying too hard. "Nervous?" Vanessa asked as we ascended. "Should I be?" "Probably." She smiled slightly. "But Soren, Mr. Blackwood, wouldn't have hired you if he didn't think you could handle it." The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. The space was minimalist. Glass desk, black leather furniture, walls lined with books that looked actually read rather than decorative. And there, standing by the windows with a coffee cup in hand, was Soren. He'd traded Saturday's formal suit for charcoal slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms. More relaxed, but no less commanding. "Celine, right on time." He gestured to the sitting area. "Coffee?" "Please." I settled into one of the leather chairs, accepting the cup Vanessa poured before she disappeared through a side door. "Sleep well?" Soren asked, taking the chair across from me. Not particularly. Kept having anxiety dreams about showing up to black tie events in my pajamas. His laugh was genuine. That's actually happened to me. Long story involving too much whiskey and a very confused hotel concierge. He set down his cup. Today we'll cover the basics. My schedule, ongoing projects, the people you'll interact with. Then tomorrow night, you'll attend your first event with me. What kind of event? Gallery opening. Art collector named Mikhail Volkov is showcasing his new acquisitions. Mostly legitimate, some questionably sourced. I need to feel out whether he's worth doing business with. And my role? Observe. Tell me what you notice about him, his guests, the dynamics in the room. He leaned forward slightly. People lower their guards at social events. They reveal things they wouldn't in a boardroom. So I am a spy. You're an observer with excellent instincts. He smiled. There's a difference. We spent the morning going through his schedule. A dizzying array of meetings, calls, and social obligations. Soren seemed to operate in 3 different time zones simultaneously, switching between languages with fluid ease. I took notes on my new tablet, trying not to feel overwhelmed. Question, I said during a brief pause. Why do you need someone to observe social dynamics? You clearly read people well yourself. I can't be everywhere at once. He pulled up a calendar on the screen between us. When I'm negotiating a deal, I can't also be watching how someone's wife reacts to mention of offshore accounts. When I'm giving a speech, I can't see who's whispering in the back row. You'll be my eyes when I'm occupied. That's a lot of trust for someone you just met. I'm an excellent judge of character. His gray eyes met mine. And you dumped champagne on someone rather than let them abuse you. That tells me you have a spine. I need people with spines. Vanessa returned with lunch, some kind of elaborate salad that probably came from the executive cafeteria I'd noticed on the 25th floor. As we ate, Soren asked questions about my observations of his office, the building, the people I'd seen. You're testing me, I said after the 5th question. I'm calibrating. He smiled. I want to understand your baseline observations. Everyone notices different things. You keep mentioning people's hands, their gestures, what they're holding, how they move. That's useful. I used to work retail, I explained. You learn to watch hands. Tells you if someone's nervous, lying, about to steal something. See? Exactly the kind of background that makes you valuable. He stood, gesturing for me to follow. Come on, I want to show you something. We took the elevator down to the 28th floor, where he led me through a maze of corridors to a large room filled with monitors. Security footage from dozens of locations flickered across the screens. His building, several restaurants, a hotel lobby, what looked like a warehouse district. This is where we coordinate security for our properties and business interests, Soren explained. I'm not asking you to become a security analyst, but I want you to understand the level of awareness I maintain about my operations. I studied the screens, feeling slightly unsettled. You watch everything. Not everything. Just enough to protect what's mine. He glanced at me. Does that bother you? I'm deciding. I crossed my arms. Is this supposed to impress me or intimidate me? Neither. It's supposed to be honest. He moved closer to one of the screens, pointing. That warehouse? It's part of a shipping operation I'm investigating. Someone's skimming profits. When I figure out who, they'll be removed. That hotel lobby? One of my business partners stays there when he's in town. I like to know who he's meeting with. He turned back to me. I don't apologize for being thorough. It's how I've survived. Survived what? Something flickered in his expression. Old pain, carefully controlled. Growing up with nothing in a world that values everything by its price tag. Building something from nothing means protecting it ruthlessly. Otherwise, someone will take it from you. There was real emotion beneath those words, quickly masked, but undeniable. I'd glimpsed something true, something vulnerable, before he locked it away again. I understand that, I said quietly. Not the building an empire part, but the protecting what little you have part. He studied me for a long moment. Yes, I suppose you would. We returned to his office, where Vanessa had laid out several clothing options on the conference table. Elegant dresses in various styles, all in my size. For tomorrow night, Soren explained, choose whichever you prefer. There's a stylist downstairs if you need alterations. I ran my hand over a deep green silk dress, the fabric cool and impossibly smooth. This is too much. It's necessary. You represent my organization now. Appearance matters at these events. I'm not comfortable with you buying me clothes. Then consider it a uniform. He moved to stand beside me, close enough that I caught the cedar scent of his cologne. I'm not trying to change you, Celine. I'm giving you the tools to do your job effectively. By making me look like I belong in your world, and by ensuring that no one dismisses you the way Tyler did. His voice hardened slightly. You're smart, observant, and valuable. I want people to see that before they even talk to you. I looked at him, at the intensity in those gray eyes, and felt something shift between us. This wasn't just about event planning or business observations. This was about something deeper. Respect, maybe, or recognition. He saw me as more than just hired help, and part of me responded to that in ways I wasn't ready to examine. The green one, I said, stepping back to create distance. I'll take the green one. Excellent choice. He smiled. It matches your eyes. You notice my eye color? I notice everything about people I'm interested in. He said it casually, but something in his tone made my pulse quicken. Part of how I stay ahead. Vanessa returned to rescue me from the charged moment, presenting a schedule for the rest of the week. 3 events, 2 business dinners, 1 charity luncheon. I'd be attending all of them. One more thing, Soren said as I prepared to leave for the day. You'll need security. I'm sorry, what? Nothing invasive, but people will know you work for me now. That makes you a person of interest to various parties. I assign protection to all my key personnel. I'm event planning, not running covert operations. You're working closely with me, which means you'll have access to sensitive information. His expression was serious. This isn't negotiable, Celine. It's for your safety. Fine. I was too tired to argue. But they better be discreet. They will be. He walked me to the elevator. Get some rest. Tomorrow night will be educational. As the elevator descended, I caught my reflection in the mirrored walls again. Same face, same hair, same basic features. But something had changed. A spark in my eyes, a set to my shoulders. I looked like someone who belonged in that tower, someone who deserved to be there. The realization should have pleased me. Instead, it made me nervous. My phone buzzed with a text from Soren. You did well today. Don't overthink tomorrow. Just be yourself. That's what I hired you for. I stared at the message, then typed back. The version that dumps champagne on people, or the version that knows when to keep quiet? His response came immediately, preferably a strategic combination of both. Despite everything, I smiled. Whatever I'd gotten myself into, at least it wouldn't be boring. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, where a nondescript man in a dark suit gave me a subtle nod before turning away. My new security, I assumed. Discreet but present. As I stepped out into the evening air, I realized that my life had irrevocably changed. No going back to anonymity, to being invisible. Soren Blackwood had pulled me into his orbit, and I was either going to burn up or learn to navigate the heat. Tomorrow night would tell me which. The gallery opening was exactly as pretentious as I'd expected. Modern art that looked like someone had thrown paint at canvas and called it profound. Waiters circulating with champagne and tiny, unidentifiable appetizers. People in expensive clothing speaking in hushed, reverent tones about texture and emotional resonance. I stood near the entrance in my green silk dress, watching Soren work the room with practiced ease. He moved from group to group, shaking hands, laughing at appropriate moments, exuding the kind of effortless charm that made people lean in when he spoke. "You're staring." The voice beside me made me jump. I turned to find a woman around my age, brunette with sharp features and sharper eyes. She wore a crimson dress that probably cost more than my previous annual salary and held her champagne glass like a weapon. "I'm observing," I corrected. "It's my job." "Ah, you must be the new one." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Soren's latest acquisition. I'm Natasha Volkov. My father owns this gallery. Celine Rivera, though I'm an employee, not an acquisition. If you say so." She sipped her champagne. Word travels fast in our circles. Everyone's buzzing about the girl who humiliated Tyler Ashford and got hired for it. Quite the power move. I dumped champagne on him for grabbing me, not to impress anyone. Even better. Her smile warmed fractionally. "He's an entitled pig. Someone needed to knock him down. Just be careful. He has powerful friends." "So do I, apparently." "Yes, you do." She gestured subtly toward Soren. "But working for Soren Blackwood isn't like working for other people. He's brilliant, generous to those he values, and absolutely ruthless to those who cross him. I've known him for years, and I still can't entirely read him." "Why are you telling me this?" "Professional courtesy." She drained her champagne. "Also because I like you. You have spine. Rare quality around here." Before I could respond, Soren appeared at my elbow, his hand settling lightly on my lower back, a gesture of possession that sent an unwelcome flutter through my stomach. "Natasha," he nodded at her, "I trust your father is enjoying his evening?" "Immensely, especially since you've already purchased 3 pieces." She glanced between us. "I was just welcoming your new associate to our world." "How kind." His tone was neutral, but I felt tension in the hand against my back. "If you'll excuse us, I need to introduce Celine to a few people." He guided me away, his touch remaining even after we'd left Natasha behind. "She warned me about you," I said quietly. "Did she?" He didn't seem surprised. "And what did she say?" "That you're ruthless." "I am." He stopped near a sculpture that looked vaguely phallic. "Does that frighten you?" "Should it?" "That seems to be your favorite question." He turned to face me fully, and I was struck again by the intensity in those gray eyes. "Here's the truth, Celine. I'm ruthless in business because mercy gets interpreted as weakness, but I'm never cruel without cause. Remember that distinction. What's the cause in Tyler Ashford's case? His company built the apartment complex where my cousin lived. Shoddy construction, corners cut everywhere. When the pipes burst last winter, the water damage destroyed everything she owned. She filed complaints that were ignored because the Ashfords paid people to look the other way. His jaw tightened. So yes, I was ruthless. And I'd do it again. The admission hung between us, and I realized I believed him completely. This was a man who protected his own, with the same intensity he built his empire. "Your observations from tonight?" he asked, shifting topics smoothly. I scanned the room, organizing my thoughts. Mikhail Volkov, the man talking to that blonde woman near the bar, keeps checking his phone every few minutes, nervous about something. His daughter Natasha watches him like she's worried. The art dealer in the corner has been taking photos of specific pieces on his phone, probably for a private client who couldn't attend. And the couple by the window? They're not together, wrong body language, but they want everyone to think they are. Soren's lips curved into a genuine smile. Excellent. Mikhail's nervous because he's expecting a shipment of questionable artwork tomorrow. The art dealer works for a Saudi prince who's expanding his collection. And the couple are both married to other people, but having an affair they believe is secret. How do you know all that? Research, observation, and strategic eavesdropping. He gestured subtly. See the server refilling drinks near the window? That's Jonas, one of my security team. He's been listening to their conversation for the past 20 minutes. I looked more carefully at the server, recognizing the military-precise movements beneath the casual service role. You have spies everywhere. I have sources of information everywhere. There's a difference. Is there? In my world, knowledge is currency. The more you know, the better positioned you are to negotiate, to protect your interests, to anticipate threats. He guided me toward another group. Come, there's someone I want you to meet. The someone turned out to be a distinguished older gentleman with silver hair and the kind of face that suggested he smiled rarely and meant it even less. Solane Rivera, this is Victor Kozlov. Victor owns the largest private security firm on the East Coast. Miss Rivera. Victor's handshake was firm, his accent faintly Russian. I hear you made quite an impression at the Ashford wedding. News really does travel fast. In our circles, yes. He studied me with the assessing gaze of someone trained to identify threats. Soren speaks highly of you. That's rare. I suspect he speaks highly of very few people. Victor's laugh was sharp. You're correct, which makes you either remarkably talented or remarkably naive. She's talented, Soren interjected, and perceptive enough to navigate our world without losing herself in it. The way he said our world made it clear there were layers of meaning I didn't fully understand yet. These weren't just businessmen. They operated in spheres where conventional rules bent or broke entirely. Well, Victor raised his glass. To new alliances and valuable assets. As he walked away, I turned to Soren. Why do I feel like I just got appraised like a racehorse? Because you did. He didn't apologize. Victor's opinion matters. If he sees value in you, others will follow suit. It's how reputation works in our circles. Your circles, not mine. You're in them now, whether you intended to be or not. He caught my elbow gently as I started to turn away. I know this is overwhelming, but you're doing exactly what I need you to do. Watching, listening, understanding the dynamics that don't get spoken aloud. And what have you learned tonight? His smile was enigmatic. That Mikhail Volkov is desperate enough to take risks. That Victor approves of you, which means I made the right choice. And that you're more comfortable in this environment than you expected to be. I'm not comfortable. I'm performing. Same thing, at this level. He released my arm but stayed close. Everyone here is performing, Celine. The difference is whether you're good enough at it to achieve your objectives. And what are my objectives? Survival, success, maybe even enjoyment if you let yourself. His gaze held mine. You could be good at this. Better than good. At what? Espionage? Social manipulation? At understanding power and how it flows. At reading the undercurrents that shape decisions. He leaned closer, voice dropping. At being the person everyone underestimates until it's too late. The intensity in his words made my breath catch. This wasn't just about event planning or business observation. This was about something larger, something that would require me to become someone new, or maybe reveal who I'd always been beneath the careful neutrality I'd cultivated. I need air, I said abruptly. He gestured toward the gallery's rooftop terrace. Through those doors. I'll join you in a moment. I escaped to the terrace, breathing in cool evening air that cleared my head. The city sprawled below, lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. Up here, removed from the performance below, I could think clearly. What was I doing? Getting pulled deeper into a world I didn't understand, working for a man who seemed to see me as both asset and something else, something that made my pulse race when he stood too close. Second thoughts? Soren's voice came from behind me. Third or fourth, actually. I turned to face him. You're not just hiring me to plan events. You're grooming me for something. Grooming implies manipulation. He joined me at the railing. I'm offering you opportunities to grow into your potential. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're reshaping me into whatever serves your purposes. I'm showing you what you're capable of. His voice was quiet, but intense. You've spent years making yourself small, invisible, acceptable. I'm giving you permission to be more. Why do you care? He was silent for a long moment, staring out at the city. When he spoke, his voice carried an emotion I hadn't heard before, something almost vulnerable. Because I see myself in you. The hunger to be more than circumstances allow. The intelligence that goes unrecognized because you lack the right pedigree or connections. The potential that gets wasted because the world judges you by external metrics rather than actual capability. He turned to face me. I can give you the platform to become who you're meant to be. The question is whether you're brave enough to take it. And what do you get out of it? Someone I can trust. Someone whose loyalty I earn rather than buy. Someone who'll tell me the truth even when it's inconvenient. His hand came up, fingers brushing along my jaw in a touch so light it might have been accidental. Someone interesting. My breath caught at the contact, at the heat in his gaze. This was dangerous territory. My boss, a man whose power could destroy me, looking at me like I was something precious and breakable. This is complicated, I whispered. Everything worth having is. His thumb traced along my cheekbone. But I'm not asking for anything tonight except your continued trust. Can you give me that? I should have stepped back, should have maintained professional distance. But something in his eyes, that rare glimpse of vulnerability, made me nod instead. Good. He dropped his hand, the moment breaking. Let's go back inside. We still have work to do. As we returned to the performance below, I realized the real danger wasn't Soren's ruthlessness or his world's moral ambiguity. It was how much I wanted to dive deeper, to see where this path led, to become the person he believed I could be, even if it meant losing myself entirely in the process. 3 months into working for Soren Blackwood, I'd learned to navigate his world with increasing confidence. I could read a room in seconds, identify power dynamics at a glance, and predict who would betray whom before the night ended. I attended galas and borrowed designer dresses, memorized the names and faces of 100 influential people, and reported back to Soren with observations that proved valuable time and again. What I hadn't learned was how to stop thinking about him. It started small, noticing the way his shirts pulled across his shoulders when he leaned over documents, catching myself looking forward to our morning coffee briefings, feeling a flutter in my chest when his rare, genuine smile appeared. Professional admiration, I told myself, natural when working closely with someone talented. The lie was getting harder to maintain. You're distracted. His voice cut through my thoughts. I looked up from my tablet to find Soren watching me across his desk, those gray eyes missing nothing. We were reviewing plans for his annual charity gala, his biggest event of the year, involving politicians, business moguls, and enough old money to fund a small nation. Just thinking about security logistics, I lied smoothly. No, you're not. He set down his pen. You've been somewhere else for the past 10 minutes. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He leaned back, studying me with that intensity that always made me feel exposed. We've worked together long enough that I know when you're lying. Talk to me. It's personal. Everything's personal when it matters. He stood, moving around the desk to sit in the chair beside mine, rather than maintaining the authority of his position behind the desk. Come on, Celine. I thought we'd moved past surface-level trust. We had. That was the problem. Over 3 months, Soren had become more than my employer. He'd become the person I talked to most, the one whose opinion I valued, the one who challenged and supported me in equal measure. The lines had blurred, and I was terrified of what that meant. "I'm just tired," I said finally. "This gala is consuming all my energy." He accepted the deflection, though I suspected he didn't believe it. "Speaking of which, I need you to coordinate with Viktor Kozlov's team on venue security. He's bringing several high-profile clients who'll need discreet protection." "Already done. I met with his operations manager yesterday." "You're remarkably efficient." "You pay me to be." I tried for lightness. "Besides, if your gala becomes a disaster, it reflects poorly on both of us." "True." He smiled slightly. "Though I suspect you care more about the quality of the event than any reflection on your reputation." Is that an insult or a compliment? Observation. You take pride in your work, sometimes to the point of perfectionism. It's admirable. The warmth in his voice made my stomach flip. This was the danger. These moments when he looked at me like I mattered beyond my professional utility, when his carefully maintained distance slipped just enough to show something deeper beneath. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. I glanced at the screen, frowning. "Problem?" Soren asked. "Probably spam." But something made me answer anyway. "Hello? Miss Rivera?" A woman's voice, professional and serious. "This is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I need to speak with you about an ongoing investigation." My blood went cold. Investigation into what? "It would be better to discuss this in person. Are you available this afternoon?" I looked at Soren, who'd gone very still, his expression unreadable. "Can I ask what this is regarding?" "Your employer, Soren Blackwood." She paused. "We're looking into potential financial irregularities. We believe you may have information relevant to our inquiry." The bottom dropped out of my world. I'm just an event coordinator." "Who has access to Mr. Blackwood's schedule, his business associates, and sensitive information about his operations?" "Please, Miss Rivera, just a conversation." 2:00 at the precinct?" "I need to think about this." "Of course, but I should mention that cooperation would reflect well in any subsequent proceedings." Another pause. "I'll text you the address." The call ended, leaving me staring at the phone like it had turned into a snake. "Let me guess," Soren said, his voice carefully neutral. "The police want to talk to you about me." "How did you—" "Because it's the third attempt in as many months to find someone in my organization willing to turn against me." He stood, moving to the windows. "I assume they mentioned cooperation would be beneficial for you." "Soren, I would never—" "I know." He turned back to me. "If I thought you'd betray me, you wouldn't still be here. But they don't know that. They're hoping you're unhappy, resentful, or scared enough to provide information." "What kind of financial irregularities?" "Nothing illegal." His jaw tightened. "But everything I do exists in gray areas. Money moved through legitimate channels but sourced from less than reputable origins. Investments that technically violate no laws, but certainly violate conventional ethics. I've built my empire by understanding where the lines are and dancing right up to them without crossing." "You're saying you're clean. I'm saying I'm careful." He moved closer. "But careful doesn't mean innocent, not in any meaningful sense. I've done things that would horrify you if you knew the full extent. Made deals with people you'd run from. Profited from industries that exist in legal twilight zones. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know what you're protecting if you refuse to talk to the police." His voice dropped. "And because if you want to walk away right now, I'll let you. No consequences, no retaliation. You can go to that meeting, tell them whatever you know, and build a life completely separate from me." The offer hung between us, genuine and terrifying. He was giving me an out, a chance to escape before I got pulled deeper into whatever moral quicksand he navigated daily. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I want you to make the choice that lets you sleep at night." He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "If that means turning me in, so be it. I won't hold it against you." "You're lying." "About what?" "About not holding it against me. Men like you don't forgive betrayal, justified or not." His smile was sad. "You're right. I'd probably never forgive it. But I'd understand it. And I'd make sure you were protected from any fallout, even if it cost me. Why? Because you matter to me." The admission came quietly, but with devastating certainty. More than an employee should. More than is wise. And because I refuse to become the kind of man who destroys people for choosing self-preservation over loyalty. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was a confession that changed everything, that took the unspoken tension between us and made it explicit and impossible to ignore. "I'm not going to talk to them," I said. "Celine, I'm not going because I don't believe you've done anything I need to report. I've seen your operations for 3 months. I've watched how you treat people, how you conduct business. If you were the monster they're looking for, I'd have seen it by now." "You're sure about that?" "No." I met his gaze steadily. "But I trust my judgment more than I trust their assumptions. And I trust you, even though that's probably stupid." Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, gratitude, and something hotter that made my breath catch. "It is stupid," he said quietly. "I'm not a good man, Celine. I make decisions that serve my interests. I eliminate threats without hesitation, and I operate in spaces where conventional morality doesn't apply. I know. And yet you're choosing to stay. Apparently, I make bad decisions." I managed a shaky smile. "Must be why we work so well together." He laughed, the sound raw and genuine. Then his hand came up, cupping my face with unexpected tenderness. "You're remarkable. You know that? You've mentioned it before. I'm mentioning it again." His thumb stroked along my cheekbone, the touch sending electricity down my spine. "What am I going to do with you? Keep me employed?" My voice came out breathier than intended. "Pay me well? Not destroy anyone else's financial empire unless they really deserve it?" "All of the above." His gaze dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes. "And this is where I should step back, maintain professional distance, and not complicate an already complex situation." "Should," I echoed. "But will you?" "That depends." His other hand settled at my waist, warm through the silk of my blouse. "Do you want me to?" Every logical part of my brain screamed yes. This was my boss, a man who operated outside conventional rules, someone whose world I'd barely begun to understand. Getting involved personally would be catastrophic professionally. But I was tired of logic, tired of careful, tired of denying the pull that had been building between us since the night he'd destroyed Tyler Ashford's life for grabbing my wrist. "No," I whispered. "I don't want you to step back." His smile was slow, dangerous, victorious. "Good." When he kissed me, it was nothing like I'd imagined. Not gentle or tentative, but consuming, claiming, absolute. His hand tightened on my waist, pulling me closer until there was no space between us. I gripped his shoulders for balance, drowning in sensation, the taste of him, the heat, the overwhelming rightness of finally giving in to what we'd both been fighting. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "This changes everything," he murmured. "I know. There's no going back to professional distance. I know that too. And you're okay with that?" I looked into those gray eyes that had haunted my thoughts for months. At the face of a man who was dangerous and ruthless, and somehow completely mine in this moment. I'm terrified, I admitted. But yes, I'm okay with it. He kissed me again, softer this time, but no less intense. When his phone rang, we both ignored it. When Vanessa knocked on the door, he called out that we weren't to be disturbed. For once, the Empire could wait. I should tell you something, he said eventually, still holding me close. About my past. About how I built all this. Later. I silenced him with another kiss. Right now, I don't want to think about empires or investigations or moral gray areas. Right now, I just want this. What about the detective? I'll call her back. Tell her I have nothing to say. I smiled against his lips. After all, I'm just an event coordinator. What would I know about financial irregularities? His laugh vibrated through both of us. You're a terrible liar when it matters. Then it's good I'm not lying. I pulled back enough to look at him seriously. I meant what I said. I trust you. Possibly more than I should, but there it is. I won't make you regret it. You better not. I dumped champagne on the last man who disappointed me. Noted. He traced his fingers through my hair. Though I have to say, the mental image of you dumping anything on me is oddly appealing. You're deranged. Probably. He kissed my forehead. But you knew that when you took the job. As we stood there wrapped in each other, the city sprawling beneath us through floor-to-ceiling windows, I realized I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. I'd chosen Soren over safety, passion over prudence, the complicated reality of him over any simplified escape. It was possibly the most reckless decision I'd ever made, and I wouldn't take it back for anything. The charity gala was 8 hours away, and I was running on coffee and nervous energy. The venue, a historic mansion on the Hudson, gleamed with preparation. Ice sculptures positioned perfectly, floral arrangements that cost more than cars, a string quartet warming up in the ballroom, everything according to the meticulous plan I'd spent 3 months perfecting. Miss Rivera? One of the catering staff approached hesitantly. We have a situation with the kitchen timeline. I followed her to address the crisis. A malfunctioning oven that threatened to derail the entire dinner service. 20 minutes of problem-solving later, with backup ovens secured from a neighboring facility, I returned to the main ballroom to find Soren waiting. Catastrophe averted? He asked, a slight smile playing at his lips. For now. I checked my tablet, though I suspect 3 more will crop up before guests arrive. That's why I hired you. Crisis management is your superpower. He moved closer, voice dropping. Along with several others I've discovered recently. Heat crept up my neck at the implication. The past 3 months since that first kiss had been a careful dance of professional competence and private passion. At work, we maintained appropriate distance. Away from the office, we explored the connection that had been building since that first explosive night. Behave, I murmured. We're on the clock. I'm always on the clock. But he stepped back, becoming all business again. Victor just arrived. He wants to brief you on the security protocols before guests start arriving. I found Victor in the mansion's study, reviewing camera feeds with his team. The distinguished older man looked up as I entered, approval in his expression. Miss Rivera, your attention to detail has made our job significantly easier. Not often I work an event this well planned. High praise from you, I replied. Earned praise. He gestured to the monitors. We've identified 3 individuals of concern who RSVP'd, one with known ties to the Kozlov organization, my competitors in Eastern Europe, one who attempted to hack Soren's financial systems last year, and one whose presence seems designed purely to provoke. Let me guess. Tyler Ashford's father? Victor's eyebrow rose. Very good. Yes, Richard Ashford accepted the invitation at the last moment. Given your history with his son, We thought you should know." A flicker of apprehension ran through me. The Ashford family had been oddly quiet since that wedding disaster. Too quiet, perhaps. "What's his play?" I asked. "Unknown. But Soren wants you protected tonight. One of my team will shadow you throughout the event." "That seems excessive." "It's necessary." Victor's tone left no room for argument. "You matter to Soren, which means you matter to me. Don't make this difficult." I accepted the inevitable. Another way my life had changed. I was no longer just Selene Rivera, anonymous worker. I was Soren Blackwood's partner, both professionally and privately. That came with protection, scrutiny, and complications I was still learning to navigate. 2 hours later, guests began arriving. I moved through the crowd in a midnight blue gown that Soren had selected. Elegant, understated, perfectly appropriate, playing my role as event coordinator and his partner with equal competence. Celine, Natasha Volkov, appeared at my elbow, resplendent in silver. "You've outdone yourself. This is spectacular." "Thank you," though I had a generous budget and excellent vendors. "False modesty doesn't suit you." She smiled. "Own your accomplishments. God knows the men in this room don't hesitate." As if summoned by her words, Soren materialized beside us, devastating in his tuxedo. He greeted Natasha warmly before his hand found the small of my back. A gesture of possession and affection that didn't go unnoticed. "Everything under control?" he murmured near my ear. "So far, though your surprise guest has arrived." His expression didn't change, but I felt tension coil through him. "Ashford just walked in. Victor's team is tracking him." "Good." He squeezed my waist gently. "Stay close tonight, please." The please was what got me. Soren rarely asked for anything outright, usually commanding with the absolute certainty that he'd be obeyed. This vulnerability, this admission that he worried, made my chest tight. "I will," I promised. The evening progressed with clockwork precision. Dinner was served flawlessly. Speeches were made. Donations flooded in for Soren's favored charities. I watched him work the room with that effortless charisma, securing commitments and partnerships with each conversation. This was his world, and he'd made a space in it for me. "Quite the Cinderella story, isn't it?" The voice came from behind me, dripping with condescension. I turned to find Richard Ashford, Tyler's father, older, harder, with the same entitled sneer his son had worn. "Mr. Ashford." I kept my voice professionally neutral. "I hope you're enjoying the evening." "Oh, immensely." He sipped his whiskey. "Though I have to say, I'm curious about your qualifications. What exactly made Soren Blackwood hire a champagne-throwing waitress to coordinate his most important event?" "My sparkling personality?" I smiled sweetly. "Or perhaps my proven ability to handle difficult people with grace?" His eyes narrowed. "You cost my family millions." "Your son's behavior cost you millions. I just provided the excuse Soren needed to cut ties with a corrupt operation." I tilted my head. "But I'm sure you've heard that version already." "Careful, Miss Rivera." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening rumble. "You're playing in a world you don't understand. Soren may protect you now, but how long do you think that lasts? When he gets bored, when you're no longer useful, you'll find yourself back where you started. Or worse." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check." He drained his whiskey. "Girls like you don't end up with men like him. Not permanently. Enjoy it while it lasts." Before I could respond, Soren appeared at my side, his hand immediately finding mine. The protective gesture was deliberate, unmistakable. "Richard." His voice was pleasant ice. "I don't recall inviting you to harass my partner." "Partner?" Richard laughed. "Is that what we're calling it?" "That's what she is." Soren's grip tightened on my hand. "In every sense that matters. which means treating her with anything less than complete respect is treating me with disrespect. I assume you understand the implications. The threat hung in the air between them, unspoken but crystal clear. Richard's face reddened, but he backed down, recognizing a battle he couldn't win. Of course, my apologies. He forced the words out. Miss Rivera, forgive my rudeness. Forgiven, I said, though we both knew it was a lie. As Richard retreated, Soren turned to me fully. Are you all right? Fine, though your surprise appearances are getting predictable. I told you to stay close. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, and I meant it. Men like Ashford don't forget perceived slights. He'll continue being a problem. Then I suppose it's good I have a powerful boyfriend to protect me. The word, boyfriend, was new between us. We'd been dancing around labels, afraid to define something so complicated. But seeing his eyes light up at the term made the risk worth it. Boyfriend? He pulled me slightly closer, uncaring of our very public location. Is that what I am? Unless you prefer something else. Partner sounds too businesslike. Lover sounds like a bad romance novel. Boyfriend seems accurate. His laugh was low and warm. Then yes, I'm your boyfriend, powerful and otherwise. And melodramatic. Don't forget, melodramatic. Says the woman who dumped champagne on a groom at his wedding. He deserved it. He absolutely did. Soren's expression grew serious. But Celine, I need you to understand something. Being with me, being public about it, makes you a target. People will try to use you to get to me. They'll dig into your past, look for weaknesses, attempt to drive wedges between us. I know. And you're okay with that? I looked around the ballroom, at the wealth and power assembled here, at the empire Soren had built through intelligence and ruthlessness, at the world I'd somehow become part of. 3 years ago, I said quietly, I would have run from all this. The danger, the complexity, the moral ambiguity. But that was before I met you. Before I understood that people aren't simple categories of good and bad. Before I learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice is also the right one. I'm not good for you. Probably not. I smiled up at him. But you make me better. Stronger. More myself than I've ever been. So yes, I'm okay with the risks. Because the alternative is going back to being invisible, and I can't do that anymore. Something shifted in his expression. Wonder, gratitude, and that fierce possessiveness I'd come to recognize as love in his particular language. I love you, he said simply, in case that wasn't clear. My heart stuttered. It was suspected, but not confirmed. Consider it confirmed. He pulled me closer despite the dozens of eyes watching. You're mine, Selena Rivera. And I don't share what's mine. Good thing I'm possessive too. I looped my arms around his neck. Because you're mine as well. Melodramatic tendencies and all. He kissed me then, right there in the middle of his charity gala, in front of politicians and business moguls and everyone who would undoubtedly gossip about it tomorrow. A claiming, a declaration, a promise all wrapped into one. When we finally broke apart, the ballroom had fallen silent, everyone watching this unexpected display. Well, I murmured. That was subtle. I'm done being subtle about you. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Let them talk. Let them know you're mine and I'm yours. Let the whole damn world know. Applause broke out. Whether for us or the general spectacle, I wasn't sure. But Natasha Volkov was grinning like she'd won a bet. Victor was nodding approvingly, and even some of the stuffier society matrons looked charmed rather than scandalized. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of well wishes and barely concealed curiosity. Soren kept me close, his touch constant and reassuring. When the last guests finally departed in the early morning hours, We stood together on the mansion's balcony, watching dawn paint the Hudson in shades of gold and rose. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For staying. For choosing this. Choosing me, despite every logical reason not to. You make it sound like a sacrifice." I leaned into his warmth. "It's not. You're not. I'm difficult, demanding, and morally flexible. And brilliant, protective, and capable of remarkable tenderness when you forget to be guarded." I turned to face him. "You see me, Soren. Really see me. Not as invisible help or a useful asset, but as a person who matters. That's rarer than you think." He pulled me close, his embrace fierce and complete. "You matter more than anything. More than the empire, the wealth, any of it. You know that, right?" "I'm starting to." As the sun rose over the Hudson, painting our future in light and possibility, I realized that the champagne incident at that wedding had been the best mistake of my life. It had led me here, to this man, this moment, this unlikely love that shouldn't work but somehow did. "So," I said eventually, "what happens now?" Soren smiled, that rare, genuine expression that transformed his face. "Now, we build something together. You challenge my melodramatic tendencies. I support your sparkling personality. We terrify society with our inappropriately public displays of affection." Sounds exhausting. Sounds perfect. He kissed my forehead. "Besides, I have a feeling you're going to spend the next several decades keeping me honest and interrupting me at important moments." "Probably." I grinned up at him. Someone has to keep the big bad Mafia-adjacent businessman humble. "Mafia-adjacent," he laughed. "Is that what we're calling it?" "I'm workshopping euphemisms. Give me time." As we stood there wrapped in each other while dawn broke over the empire he'd built and the life we'd create together, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Loving Soren Blackwood would never be simple or safe or conventional. But it would be mine. Ours. Real in a way that mattered more than any carefully planned facade. And really, for a girl who'd once been invisible, being seen, being loved, by someone remarkable. That was the greatest triumph of all. From champagne-soaked humiliation to a love that defied every expectation. Celine and Soren's journey reminds us that sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with one brave moment of refusal to be diminished. Their story proves that finding your voice and standing your ground can lead to extraordinary places, even when the path seems impossible. If this story of courage, redemption, and unexpected love resonated with you, please click like to let me know. What would you have done in Celine's position at that wedding? Stayed silent or taken a stand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective.